Democratic Congressman John Conyers says he's stepping down as ranking member of the Judiciary Committee amid an ongoing sexual harassment investigation. Joining us now is Lisa Bloom. She represents the woman who filed a complaint against Conyers. Bloom wants her client released from a confidentiality agreement so the woman can speak freely. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
We have talked so much on this program since the Harvey Weinstein thing about confidentiality agreements and about these non-disclosure agreements that women are often forced to sign and then that silence them. So just explain to us what would happen if your client were to break her confidentiality agreement. What if she were just to speak out freely? Then what?
Well, certainly Congress should not be a victim silencing machine, and that is the process that complainants go through. So my client settled a case with Congressman Conyers a couple of years ago, and she was required to sign a document even before the process started, guaranteeing confidentiality of the entire process. And then when it was resolved, that she had to sign a confidentiality agreement, which binds her, but not him. So he's been speaking out, giving his side of the story, namely that there was no sexual harassment. His attorney has been speaking out, and she is prohibited. If she violated that, she could face a breach of contract action. She could be sued. You know, she's a regular person. She's not a wealthy person. So she's in fear. And all I'm here to say is, Congressman Conyers, please release her to tell her side of the story. She has a powerful story to tell. You're giving her side. It's only fair and decent to allow her to speak as well.
Here's Congressman Conyers' statement. He says, I deny these allegations, many of which were raised by documents reportedly paid for by a partisan alt-right blogger. I very much look forward to vindicating myself and my family before the House Committee on Ethics. Is your client, Lisa, part of an alt-right blogger's efforts?
Absolutely not. She worked for him for many years. She's a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. This is not a partisan issue. This is about sexual harassment and claims that were raised years ago. She doesn't know how the story leaked. She had no connection to this right-wing blogger. Ultimately, it was BuzzFeed, by the way, which is a progressive media outlet, that vetted the story and broke the story.
But aren't there some things, Lisa, some crimes that trump a confidentiality settlements? I mean, if you witness a crime, if you're the victim of a crime, how can you be silenced?
Well, here's something that trumps a confidentiality agreement, a lawfully issued subpoena. And so I am calling upon the House Ethics Committee to send a subpoena. I will accept it on my client's behalf. Any victim, whether she has a confidentiality agreement or not, if she is subpoenaed, that overrides the confidentiality agreement, and she can go in and speak. She would like to speak. She would like to tell her story. She can go before the House Ethics Committee as early as this week if they see fit, and she can tell her story there. I think that's a good outcome.
You know, one last thing on this. So many people have said they didn't know that there was this fund that has paid out $17 million over the past decade to settle some of these suits, often sexual harassment suits. And even lawmakers in Congress didn't know that there was this quite shrouded settlement fund with taxpayer dollars. So your client is one of the people who received one of these settlements. So do you think that lots of people knew in Congress?
I have no idea whether people knew or not. I certainly didn't know. I consider myself a pretty well-informed person. But clearly, if our tax dollars are going to pay people, we should be entitled as taxpayers to know about what the allegations are. By the way, here in Los Angeles, where I practice sexual harassment law, claims against the city are made public. Claims against the state are made public. We don't have confidential settlements. We all know about them. It should be the same for the U.S. Congress. Please release my client to speak and tell her story. I think that's the good and fair and decent thing to do.
So, Lisa, this is the first time that you've been on our program since the Harvey Weinstein scandal broke. And of course, you had been doing work for him during that time. And I know that you have called your work for him a, quote, colossal mistake. And so I'm wondering now, in the weeks since then, and in hindsight, I mean, what should you have done when he called and asked for your help?
Well, unfortunately, I'm no longer authorized to talk about that case since I withdrew about a month and a half ago. I can tell you that I've won 3 sexual harassment cases for victims in the month and a half since I withdrew. I won a big appeal for Janice Dickinson against Bill Cosby. So I'm looking forward to continuing to doing the work that I've been doing for 31 years, which is representing victims. That's been 99% of my work. Occasionally, I have represented a man who has come to me and said he was wrongly accused. We're not doing that anymore at my law firm. We're just representing victims victims going forward.
And I mean, but just on a personal level, what do you want to share about what you've learned about this whole episode?
Well, I've learned there's a lot of anger and hate in our culture. I got a lot of death threats. I got a lot of rape threats. I got people very specifically saying what they were going to do to me. As an attorney, you know, I represent people. Sometimes they make mistakes. They make bad mistakes. They do terrible things. So I don't know what else to tell you about that. I'm no longer authorized to speak about that case with any level of specificity, but I'm very happy to represent the woman accusing John Conyers, and I hope that we'll have a chance to go before the Ethics Committee.
Lisa Bloom, we really appreciate you coming on and telling us about all of your various cases. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Chris.
All right.